I have spent a good portion of my life buying very poor examples of highly sought after classic cars and trucks. Welcome to American Outdoors. The term barn find has become a much overused and hijacked sort of phrase in the modern age. There's three ways how I describe the word hijacked as it relates to classic cars and trucks today. And the first one is marketing. It's an overhyped word used to jack up the price on vehicles that we find laying around somewhere in order to lead the buyer to believe that they're unmolested, they're mostly original, they've been sitting for decades, and they're just waiting for somebody to come and lay a caring hand on them and restore them to their old glory. And I would also say that the term barn find in many cases is misleading. They're not found in barns much anymore. They're found just about anywhere. But it sounds good. It romanticizes the product. And thirdly, I would consider the phrase barn find to be a myth. Now, this video isn't for those who are out looking for high-end cars. This is for somebody that's on a budget who wants to make money on the side or thinks that they can actually make a living flipping cars. What I'm about to tell you are some things that might bring a dose of reality, maybe disappointment, but I'd rather be honest with you than just put out another video that tells you how to find barn finds and how to make $1 million. Now, some of you younger viewers may find this hard to believe, but I can remember 35, 40 years ago hunting on some private land, and I came across an open field, and in the middle of the field was a blue with white stripe 1970 Chevelle Super Sport 454. The hood was off of it, the engine was gone, and there was a tree growing through the engine bay, and it was about 20 foot high. The owner of the land had gone through a divorce, and he had abandoned the property, actually left the title for the car in a drawer inside the house. I can also remember a 1969 Indianapolis 500 pace car replica, convertible with the orange houndstooth interior sitting in a woman's carport. Her husband had passed away, and she had no idea how to sell the car, didn't know what it was worth, and was really pretty open to taking any sort of an offer. I also remember a local hardware store where the owner had a 1965 Malibu Super Sport 396 big block. I think there were only several hundred of those made. They had driven it 53,000 miles before the engine locked up because, well, they'd never taken it in for service and they'd never changed the oil. Yeah, folks, that was a true story I just told you. Now, in the 80s and 90s, those cars were considered collectible. There was value in those cars, nothing like today. And the terms barn find, ran when parked, I know what I got, those really were phrases that didn't exist. You could go down the road and see a car or a truck in somebody's field or parked behind their barn that you thought might be worth something. You could go up and talk to the old guy and his wife, and they would think maybe you were doing them a favor, and you'd negotiate for pennies on the dollar and take it home, and it was yours. That happened a lot, and that was when you could actually fix a car up on a budget and sell it for a profit. Now, I'm not trying to rain on anybody's parade. I'm really just trying to inject some reality, especially for the young folks that weren't around when these cars were more common and affordable. Back then, when you went to sell a car or when you went to buy a car, a lot of times you found what you were looking for just through word of mouth. A friend of a friend or a coworker. Somebody posted a note card on a bulletin board. Nowadays, if there's something out there that's considered valuable, it's going to have 40 followers within the first hour that it's posted. Now, that old network may still exist, however, it's gotten very narrow in the modern age, and it's really not populated by many people that would be watching this video. Now, the purpose of this video is to help those who are interested in buying and selling old classic cars and trucks, and they're interested in making a profit. And they're on a budget maybe. Cars that are non-running, they've been sitting for years, if not decades, and they don't want to spend any more than $2,500 or less. I'm going to share some information, both pro and con, and help people understand the ins and outs of buying and selling old cars. So let's say, for example, I'm looking to buy Chevrolet and GMC trucks from 1967 to, say, 1987. I've got a budget of $2,500. I want to buy them low, I want to sell them high. I'm posting some examples here so you can see what's available locally in my market in the Southeast United States for around that price and what condition they're in and what they're going to need. All right, to give you an idea of the market around me, this is a 1968 Chevelle Malibu. It has no motor, no drivetrain, no drive shaft. Body's pretty well beat. It's missing exterior parts, missing interior parts. It has mismatched seats, and the owner is wanting $6,500, and he's firm on that price. So now that we've been to the penthouse, let's go back downstairs. Oh, and before the elevator door closes, this is a 1968 Chevrolet Camaro, ran when parked, no title, bring a trailer, a winch, and cash. All right, let's go do some shopping, shall we? So here's the 69 C20 for $700, possible frame damage. Bed is rusted out. Can't remember if it runs. Tree hit the hood. Next, we have a 68 C10, no motor, no drivetrain. The cab is rusted through the roof. There are some parts that go with the deal. Good looking rims. $900. 79 2500 or a 71 C10. Take your pick. $1,000. Seems like maybe they're leaving some money on the table here. 1978 Chevy Bonanza, non-running. It's been sitting for 20 years. $1,100. Body filler looks really straight on this one. 1969 C20. This one has no VIN. $1,200 cash and carry. This one's interesting to me. This is a 69 GMC, has a 327. It's currently not running, but it did run when parked. It's a 3/4 ton, $1,250. 1968 C10. Don't be fooled, folks. This one is not as nice as it appears. Next one is a 1986 K10. This has no motor and no title. $1,500. Looks to be already in flip land, apparently from the background. 1970 C10. No wheels, no tires. Bring some. Here's a pair of 1972 C10s, $1,700 for the one on the left. The one on the right runs, and it's $1,800, and that one would interest me. Here's also a 68 C10, no run, no title, $1,800. See the trailer on the right. 1969 Chevy C10. This one has got an engine knock, and it's $1,900. The next one is a 76 Chevy Bonanza. This one is $2,000, as is. 1978 K-Series. This one is also $2,000. It does run. 1971. This one's got the doors blown off of it, apparently. It's got some nice wheels. Body doesn't look bad. It's one color. The truck bed has got a big hole in it. No motor, no drivetrain. It's a roller. Used to be a stick on the column. Now this 1978 C10 is 2-wheel drive. It's just had a fresh coat of baby blue paint, which isn't my favorite for resale, but the tires hold air and it does run. Doors are rusted out, which kind of sucks after you paint the thing. It needs a K-member, needs some brake work, hoses, needs upholstered inside. Now we're starting to get to a level where you can actually drive these things and they can get out of your way. And then we have an 83 K10, which does run, but the owner says he just can't seem to figure it out and get it in time. So this one is $2,500. I'm also going to introduce you to a new term, and it's called restoration math. They didn't teach restoration math in high school mathematics class, although if they did, it would have been better served in economics. Now this is a math where we make up our own numbers, our own calculations, and our own answers. And they're always right until they're not. You can see in this image, there's a 68 Chevelle 396 SS that's totally rotted out. That's roached. $9,000. But that's not the point of this video. So let's move on. Here's a 71 Chevelle Malibu, no engine, $2,500. I think the seller says the price is firm. Okay, well, let's just say we get it for $23,000. In your mind, what is that vehicle worth once you take it home and try to sell it? What is the end price that you think you can get by flipping that car? Now, if you had bought that car with the intention of doing a full-on restoration, Hagerty values that vehicle done in a grade 1 as somewhere around the mid-teens, $15,000 to $20,000. But that's, again, not the point of this video. You're just trying to buy and sell. What is that car worth if you give $23,000 for it? Who is going to buy that car for $5,000, $4,000, $3,000? And that's where you fall into the trap. That's where you try to do little tweaks, try and kick the value up. Maybe you need to put tires on it. Well, there's $100 for some used tires. I'm talking basement, bottom dollar, bargain. You know, you're not going to try and spend any money that you don't have to. Well, it's got no motor. What if you put a motor in it, just some used truck motor for $300, $400? All right, needs a transmission, needs a drive shaft. All the drum brakes are locked up. You know, as you can tell, there's no glass in the car. So it's had rain going into it for an extended period of time. The electronics are fried. The floor pans are probably rotted out. It's going to need all new upholstery, door panels, dash pad, electronics. There's rust holes through the roof. The body literally has duct tape and Bondo all around the quarter panels. The only value that I can see to that car is the frame. Somebody that will do a complete restoration on that is going to replace just about every piece of metal on that car except the frame. They are buying stuff that they're going to throw away. But if you're trying to flip this car, it's dollar for dollar or less. You're not going to make money by putting money into it. At best, you might get your money back out. And that begs the question, well, then why would you do that? If you put a motor and a transmission and a drive shaft in it and some used tires and all that kind of stuff and a battery, well, you're spending all that money, and then you go, well, yeah, I've got $4,500 in it and I sold it for $5,000, so I made $500. Did you count your time? Because your time has to be worth something. You can't work for free. Is your time worth $5 an hour, $50 an hour, $100 an hour? What's it worth to you? What's it worth to your wife and your kids? To the other things around your house that need for your time and attention that are now getting neglected? What about your job? You know, you can't say that you're just going to put a pile of parts on a flip and a buy and sell flip and say that it's profitable, because it's not. You also have to include things like if you had to drive an hour or 2 hours away, well, that's wear and tear on your truck. You're dragging a trailer, you're burning fuel. What about the title? And that's also another issue when you get to selling these buy and flips. There are many states that they don't care about titles anymore, but the chain of custody, do you know if anybody might claim ownership to that vehicle down the road? So the beginner's trap is buying a car like that and thinking that you can just throw a pile of parts at it and make some money. The truth is, what you really did was you either learned or practiced your skill set, now you worked for free. In years past, those cars and trucks were so common, it wasn't difficult for somebody to buy those up for pennies on the dollar, fix them up with a little bit of money and elbow grease, and make a profit. Yes, there were plenty of people that did that as a successful side hustle or even a full-time job. Today, not so much. So there are going to be people out there, and I will get the comments, and they will say, yeah, I sell cars, I flip them, I make money all the time. I'm not speaking in absolutes. I am speaking in trends. And with personal experience, you can take $5,000 and put it into the bank and draw interest on it. 6 months later, maybe you've made $120, $150. You can put $5,000 into an old ratted out car, put your blood, sweat, and tears and a whole bunch more money into it, and at the end of the same period, maybe lose a little bit less. All right, so I'm sure I've already had people at this point, they're on the keyboards and they're posting comments below telling me that I'm nuts because they buy and sell and flip cars all the time and they're making good money. In this day and age, they're outliers. I do the same thing. I buy and sell cars and I do make money at it. I'm an exception. This is a very narrow field. So then that begs the question, well, how do people make money on these old cars and trucks? Well, I've got 3 answers for that. The first one is they do absolutely nothing. And you can see it all the time. They will dig these cars out from the hedgerows, winch them up on the trailer, drag them down to the gas station and put fuel in their tow vehicle, and then while they're filling up the gas tank, they're taking pictures of that car so they can post it on an online selling site. It's all the time. They don't even take them off the trailers. They have not even got them home, and they already have them for sale. The only thing that they might do is clean them out, get all the old junk out of the trunk, out of the interior, vacuum it out, get rid of the mice, maybe put something in there to kill the smell. That's all the investment they have other than their time and some gas. The second technique is to work on them for somebody else. And what I mean by that is if you've got mechanical skills, you can do engine work, driveline work, transmission work. If you know how to upholster, do interior work, there's a demand for that kind of thing. And obviously, if you can do body work and paint, isn't it better to make the money off of somebody else's investment instead of spending your hard-earned money, your blood, sweat, and tears on your own investment, waiting and hoping for somebody to come by without lowballing you and then ending up having to take a cut in your profit, if there is any, to unload it. And the third one is also just as popular, and it's what you're watching right now, and that is to make content off of these vehicles. You know, you're one click away from thousands of YouTube videos on reviving cars. Will it start? Will it drive 400 miles? Dragging these cars out that have sat for 50 years. People are getting thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, views in the millions. And they're being entertained watching somebody else do that, and they're making money off of it. And it's not that hard to do after all. Anyway, I could talk about this for a lot longer, and I'm sure there are plenty of you out there that are ready and willing to fire out your comments and your opinions below. And I welcome those, and I try to answer all of them. That's all I've got for today. I hope this was helpful. And from all of us here at American Outdoors, thanks for watching, folks. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
This concludes our broadcast day. Good night, and God bless America.